Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome back to Real Talk. I'm sure that those who've been watching us will have found the first part of this program really interesting and fascinating. As I said at the beginning, I have an amazing young man with me who is happy to come on TV and talk about his past life and be honest and open about what he was involved with when he was young, in the criminal activity he was engaged in, as a consequence of which he then ended up in prison, and how while in prison he realized the errors of his ways and then decided to change his life, particularly after realizing the impact that this was having on his family, his mother, who was his only earliest next of kin. And the impact on the mother he felt was really impactful and devastating, and he decided that he wanted to change his life. When he came out of prison, obviously he decided he wanted to try and work with other people who had been in prison and who wanted to come out and make sure that they reform their lives as well. While you were in prison, I mean, over the last 25 years or so, the prison service has tried to engage more and more Muslim imams, chaplains as they call them, to try and help prisoners realize, the importance of Deen in their lives. Did you have those facilities available to you?
Yes, we
did. You have an imam present in the prison?
In every prison that I've been in,
right.
they've had an imam present.
And how well do the Muslim prisoners connect with them?
I think it's more for what can the imam do for us? I think as a prisoner, what can he do for us? Can he bring us this? Can he bring us that? And it's always the thing of when I used to see it is, rather than trying to sit down with the imam and betting yourself, it's Imam, can you do this? Can you get this done? Can you sort this out? Or they did this and they did that, and it's like.
So they become like a welfare officer.
Yeah, and it's like, well, they're there to help you with your deen and stuff and whatnot. They have the classes and mashallah they do, but at the same time, are people using them wisely? No, people go into them classes and messing about, and it's like, it's a bit of a shame, but unfortunately, it is the way it is, and they only get a specific time. They're not in there every day, like the chaplains here. The chaplains here every day, and they're doing sycamore tree courses and stuff and whatnot. But when it comes to the imams and stuff, they're kind of restricted, if that makes sense. From
they're working
the
part-time, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not a full-time job for them, so they're kind of restricted to have that kind of a thing. But there is people and
do you think that helps the prisoners?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Obviously you felt it helped you.
For me it was different. I had an opportunity to talk to my imam in the mosque and have my side to him of sitting there and being pure and thinking, this man's not going to judge me. He's going to talk to me because he's the man of, he's sitting there and he's giving me knowledge of our books. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ask him certain questions. So for me, it was just being open and honest. Am I going to be punished in my afterlife for this and this? And for him to turn around and say something to me saying, you have been punished, God's punished you here on this earth, on this earth with this, and inshallah you'll have a clear path if you change your ways. And it was that if you change, and I was like, yeah, I wasn't even 100% practicing in there. I was, no 5-time work namaz. Now, alhamdulillah, it's a different story, because you are in a situation where you don't see nothing and you're thinking, there's no future for me. How can I be patient? I'm just stuck now in this place where I've bought myself. But then, alhamdulillah, Allah opens doors in ways which, you believe me, you will not see.
So after you came out,
yes,
right, you started this organization called Consequence, which is a community interest company. Yes. We won't go into that. But it's a new form of setting up charitable work, etc. So your work primarily at the moment is with people who've been in the criminal justice system. Is that people who've been in prison, or people who've been given other sentences like community service orders and things like that?
See, for me, it's to do with anyone that's been given a criminal record. So, for example, it's two sides of this company. The first side of it, which is working with offenders who are inside prison, who have long terms to go, and using that time and experience whilst they're in there, and getting them the knowledge of this is something that once they're out, there could be an employment opportunity with Consequence wherever they reside, but they'll have the training from us and have the elements. The other part of it is is going out and delivering to young people and, say, for example, schools, mosques and stuff, and saying this is the message that is for you to understand. This is what will happen if you go down this path. And the aim is trying to make both of them work together, hand in hand. The young person needs to hear that story. The person that's been there and done that needs to relay that story to them. Well, I did this, and this is what I ended up. And today I'm sat inside doing X, Y, and Z. And I think for that, it's trying to help two of UK's most biggest problems, reoffending, offending, and it's just trying to get ex-offenders away from that path again, the door.
So in the sense of, rehabilitation in a way, when you see prisoners coming out, one of the things is that, families, is that your son's gone in prison or your daughter's gone in prison, you've lost all respect in the community, in the family.
Yeah.
How are these people being rehabilitated within the family structure? Is there an issue still going on, or do parents feel that they've shamed them and therefore they don't want anything to do with them?
See, when it comes to the women's prisoners, it's far different to the men prisoners. Why? Because I think they're always going to have that tarnish on them. Whereas if a man goes in and comes back out, it's that tarnish for a little bit, and it's like, oh, it's okay. Some of them do have issues, but the ones that we've worked with, most of the families are always happy to have them back.
Right.
They don't want to lose them, but unfortunately, in some circumstances, the family just tell them, right, we've got nothing to do with you. We don't want anything to do with you. You just go in your own path. Because you've got to understand how many times is a mother, a father gonna give that opportunity? Okay, son, don't do it again. Build that trust in that person, and the person goes out and does the same thing again, right underneath their nose. And it gets to a point where the parents just think, rather than the police constantly coming to the house, the side effects of the neighbours talking, the community, let's just get him out of here. And what they don't realise, doing that is far worse, because now they've completely lost track of what that person's doing, and I think it is, it's a pity, but unfortunately it's a fact of life. And you only find out that when you've gone past that stage and you've committed that crime and you've done your time, you've already got psychological issues going on inside of your head from what's happened to you inside and how you've been treated and whatnot. And now you're worrying, thinking, my family doesn't want me. Who wants me? Where am I? And at that point, you're fully lost.
Right. We have a call this time again, inshallah. Hopefully it won't drop. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alaikum assalam. How are you, sister?
Fine, alhamdulillah. I'm happy that you're doing about this topic.
Alhamdulillah.
Because I suffered myself in this, the way the brothers say, and repeatedly I've been getting arrested due to my illness. And the families like now mentally abuse me, and then it's affecting me. But why is it that the offenders don't get help afterwards by the police or a key worker to work out of how to develop the positivity?
Sorry, sister. Have you been involved in the criminal justice system, do you say?
Yeah.
I see. So you've been through the criminal justice system yourself personally?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
I had to do 6 months probation, and I was taken to court due to my panic attacks that was happening regularly.
All right, I see.
And then I'm saying that now that the police is not helping me to fight back the battles of innocence,
right.
They wrongly arrested me over the illness because of the condition. But I've got now the community, like you said, the community is not understanding you. And then you looked as a bad person, and then where are we meant to get help from? Yeah.
You're saying there's no other support structure available for somebody like you?
There isn't, because for 18 months I've been asking for help, and all they're saying is that you're a very intelligent woman. You don't need any help. You just need Samaritans. You just need phone line help.
Right.
And that's not enough, because this help mentality brains affects your brain. And you can't stand out in the community. You can't face people because they're now looking at you as a bad person all the time.
So you are saying that when somebody gets involved in the criminal justice system, the community will shun them and not provide any support at all.
Purposely.
That is what we've been talking about, haven't we?
I agree to a certain extent, because obviously they do. But what I will say is do not stop your determination to change, because doors were being closed down on us. Doors were
because I've got tawakkul with Allah. But the thing is, our community's lack of education and mentally, it's not their fault, but they had hard times in their lives, and they're looking at the children weren't given that parenting at the time when they needed it, and that's why our innocent boys are doing criminal problems. But ladies are getting blamed for the way they've raised up the children when we've done the quality work, but then we're getting emotionally abused now, and then we are the ones that targeted from cleverly by the older men.
I mean, that is something
that we're the ones that are bad people.
Yeah, that is something that obviously Naz must have gone through as well, because being a young man without a father as a role model, being raised by his mother single-handedly, obviously there must have been some consequences as
I think a lot of people do tend to blame your parents and your stuff, but you've got to understand, you know, it's not the parents' fault. It's the society that they're residing in. It's the people that they hang around in, you know. And you're saying about change, you know, that you're not getting any help and support. In this day and age, you've got to go out there and fight for that help. You've got to ask and knock on as many doors as you can. I did. You know, no one would open the doors to me until I did. I knocked on doors to this day. I still knock on doors, and still sometimes doors are getting closed. I don't mind, because I believe that there's a path written for me from God. So I will do what it takes. I am lucky enough to have certain people on board who have helped. Your MP, your councillors. These are your people that you can take this up with. You know, talk to your local police.
I've been doing that, and I've been going to my MPs, but MPs are not willing to see me.
Well, I mean, obviously, we can't go into your personal case, you know, on this program. But I mean, what you mention and what you raise is obviously a fascinating issue. There is obviously a lack of support for people who are involved in the criminal justice system, generally anyway. And as more and more austerity packages comes into our nation, more and more we see some of these structures which existed before are being dismantled. So, you know, we are seeing more people being turned away by institutions who previously had somewhere to rely on. So maybe it's something that we as a community need to start looking at, is how can we use our institutional organizations, such as our mosque and the madrasas and the community centers that we have, to see whether they may be able to fill the gap. Obviously, they can't do it if the resources are not being provided for them, but they may be able to look at different means. And I know, for example, the Khidmat Centre in Bradford have got a project for Muslim women prisoners, and we spoke about that. We had Sophia Bonsi here a few months ago who talked about Muslim women prisoners and the rehabilitation into the community as well. And there were similar issues around there where families were either accepting them back or in some cases not accepting them back, which then posed even more challenges for those women who wanted to come back into the community. So, I mean, obviously here we have a sister who has suffered. There's no doubt about it. She has suffered, and she's going around looking for support wherever she can. How do you, I mean, do you go out and seek people, or do they come to you for support?
We get referrals. We've never sought for anything. They've always come to us, either if it's...
When I say seek, when you go into prisons to talk to prisoners before they're released, you know, do you go out there and say, look, here we are, we're an organization, this is what we're here for, this is what we do, come and see us if you need to?
Unfortunately, sometimes in the last 10 years that we've been working with this company, even prisons have closed doors on us. Why? It's because we tell the truth of what's happened and what with our lives. But some of the prisons that have opened the doors... Surely
the prison structure, the prison service would welcome some of the work that you're doing.
I'd love to see someone who is a governor of a prison and say, hey, yeah, we'll have you in because this is something... What I'm giving them and what opportunity I'm giving them is to say, hey, you may have many years to go. We understand that. I was in the same situation as you. Whilst you're in here, you could be our voice from behind the walls, and you can communicate through us via the school with the young people, and your message will go out there. So your time's not going to be wasted. By the time you get out there, whilst you're inside, do a certain program or a course or even a degree. When you get out there, you are now educated enough to know that this is a program that you have to go out and do. You're self-employed, you're going out there, you'd go out there and do drugs, and you'd go out there and do your other criminal activities. This is the same thing, but this is a different process. This is where you have to do emails, you have to go out and you physically go and get the community or the area that you're living in.
One of the issues, obviously, for people who come out of the criminal justice system, particularly prisons. And this applies not just to Muslim prisoners, it applies to all prisoners,
yes.
is finding something in life that gives them a purpose. And for that, for example, a job. Now, how are you? Do you provide any support for people to come out and then find a job somewhere? See, apart from the Princess Trust work.
No, for us at the end of the day, when someone comes out, and it has been cases where they've said, we just want a normal job, our aim is through our links, structures and support mechanisms and organisations that deliver and are there for that, we'll signpost them. You know, rather than just saying there, we'll take them to that person and say, look, this is now someone from our side that we've helped and supported, but he wants to get into a normal job. And then it's a downward kind of a spiral from, because you've got to understand, they're just a person who wants a job. There's 10 people in the community who haven't done anything wrong. Why shouldn't they be given the opportunity than that? And then that starts to get into their minds, and it gets into the point where they're thinking, how many jobs am I going to get knocked back from, and what support is there? There you go, there's a CV done for you, there's this, there's that. And
well, have you done any work around the Rehabilitation Offenders Act, which is quite a powerful tool to use at times, which empowers employers to take on people who may have been involved in a criminal justice system, who may have had a custodian sentence, because there's a time limit on when that custodial sentence or the record is maintained for that person.
Now that is true and it's untrue. On the record it's there and it needs to be adhered to, and I'm one for it. Off record, do they adhere to it? No. I've had, can't go into names, but managers who have basically had envelopes and envelopes of applications, and what they say to me is simple. We just look at the back box straight away and think which one's a criminal and which one has committed a criminal offence, yes or no, declare. The minute they declare it, it says that gets put onto a pile. That's write a letter to say, sorry, your application has been successful this time. And for me, that's like, wow.
But that's breaking the law, isn't it?
Well, you tell me. This is happening. This is happening up and down the country. Yeah, and it's a fact. It's not something that's a myth. It's a fact. The other part of it is this new law. Well, this new document they've done for the Prime Minister through David Lammy. Now that's another one. That's really good. The David Lammy report. Wow. If it could be put into place, which basically states, after a certain period of time.
For our viewers who may not be aware of the David Lammy report, is a report that we were hoping to discuss at one stage in this program, which is looking at how black and minority ethnic prisoners, or people in the criminal justice system rather, are treated, throughout their journey through the criminal justice system. David Lammy, who's a member of Parliament for Tottenham in London, if I remember correctly, has produced a report which shows that there is disparity in the way black and minority ethnic prisoners or people involved in criminal activities, when they go through the magistrates' court or the Crown Court or through the prison service, the treatment they receive is different to non-BAME people who have been involved in crime. And this is a wake-up call for the government to start to look at how they may want to reform some of those structures and bring in policies and practices which will try and negate some of the facts that David Lammy has pulled out in this report. So coming back, yes, it shows that there is discrimination,
big time, institutional
discrimination in the whole of the system. So if you put that to one side, coming back to the work that you do, mashallah, you've reformed yourself. You're a man with a family with 2 young boys. May Allah give them good health and make them pious and neck, and a good role model for others to follow. You're still young, you're only 36, you were telling me. So we have another caller, I believe. So, Assalamu alaikum, welcome, brothers and sisters.
It's me, Assalamu alaikum, the sister again. And I
Hello.
just had to say that when I went to the court, they wouldn't let me say my view. And as an innocent woman, I was not allowed to say my innocence. That why would a 46-year-old woman want to come into criminal offence when she's not doing it? And then the judge put his hand up and didn't let me speak, and then I got £60 fine and 6 months probation. Well, the thing is, you're right. Ethnic people are not allowed to say what they want to say, the honesty, and something needs to be done about this. And we're not treated, not just only in police, in the criminal side, in everything. We're treated 3 steps behind, and they think that we don't know the rights and wrong, and they're always treating us the wrong way, and we're not treated equally as English people. But this needs to be looked at carefully.
I agree, and as I say, David Lammy's report does point out that there are some faults in the system. Now we're waiting for the government to respond to that report to see what policies and practices are going to be put in place to try and.
Well, I'm trying to fight my battle.
Well, I'm sure you are, and may Allah give you even more strength.
I'm trying to investigate that why was I wrongly arrested, and the thing is that the police force, the independent inquiry is taking so long. But if it was an English family or English person, they would have done it properly and quickly give the answer. But for us, they're taking time.
I know. I mean, obviously, if you have referred the matter to what used to be called the IPPC, right, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, I'm assuming you're saying that's where you referred. Yes. And I know the people who work in the IPPC. I know one of the commissioners who was based in Wakefield for quite a while, and I know that there's a huge backlog. But that doesn't excuse them. I agree with that. But I think maybe you might need to get some professional support behind you to see whether there's some professional people in the legal system who might be willing.
But the legal system said that you haven't had a physical damage. And right. I've been trying to find a solicitor, but they're not taking my case because they say that you've been so vigilant that you haven't had the physical damage, so they don't want to take the case.
Well, obviously, I mean, as you say, this is not a physical thing. It's around mental health issues around that. So maybe you might need to, as Naz says, there will be some organization, hopefully, who might be able to assist you. Obviously, it is a huge problem out there. I understand that, and I wish and pray that somehow, in some way, you will get some sort of redress from what you've suffered. And coming back, obviously, I'm sorry. We can't go beyond that because it's sub judice, as they say. But I hope that something will come out and that'll give you the satisfaction that you're looking for. But I mean, coming back to you, Naz, obviously here we have a sister who has had difficulty in accessing a support network of services. And do you find the same when it comes to the work that you're doing as well? I mean, you've said that some prisons have not welcomed you.
Yes.
Others have.
Yeah.
What about other criminal justice agencies?
So, for example, you've got your probation service, and from what I was told was, your probation officer is going to be able to help you with everything. Not really did it happen that way. I was lucky. My probation officer, I changed the first one, got changed, and the second one, she was really good with me. Helped and supported me, whatever. But when you go to them and say,
we've only got 1 minute left, by the way, in this program. Time's really flown.
Like I said, we'll
have to come back, inshallah, one day.
Some other day, and we can take that further from there. But like I said, it's something that we at Consequence feel, and we suffer every day. Funding's a problem. Doors are still getting closed in our faces.
So you're self-funded, are you?
Yeah, we are, inshallah.
So you're self-funded.
Yeah, and we're out there to like I said, we are applying to the right organisations now after 10 years. It was just all Bradford internal. The aim is now to go national with it and go hit bigger pots, inshallah.
Brothers and sisters, time's really flown today. I hope you found this today's program of some interest. As you heard from our sister, who is one of the victims, as she says it, of this whole structure, the way the criminal justice system operates. I'm sure you will have found Naz's experience of some value. And what I will say to the parents who find themselves in this situation, please make sure that you support organizations like Consequence. I hope that you don't have to suffer, and I hope your sons and daughters do not get involved in any of these criminal activities, and may Allah guide them and show them the right path. I hope to see you inshallah next week, where my guest is going to be Janine Wali, who is a revert into Islam. You've seen her before. Inshallah, we'll have a long time to talk to her. Jazakallah khair for watching. Inshallah, we'll see you next week. May Allah protect you and take care of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.